design wedding centerpieces and a beautiful reception decor in Stable Diffusion, specifically asking for burgundy in the florals, in the designs? Well, that's what we're going to find out today. Last week, I had a great time sharing with you my Stable Diffusion fall wedding experience where we designed a full wedding complete with ceremony and reception decor. This week, we're honing in specifically on centerpieces and seeing if we can pick a specific and unusual color, burgundy, and have the AI make us some really fun and unique centerpieces. All right, friends, I'm Alessandra. Let's get into this Stable Diffusion generation lineup and see what we've got. Now, you can see, like I said last time in the other video, I'm using Stable Diffusion, currently running 1.4, and I'm using the automatic 1111 GUI. This is just a sample of the prompt that I used. I used this one and got some fantastic results, so I wanted to share it with you in case you wanted to try. So we're currently using the text-to-image portion of this, and the prompt that we gave the AI was burgundy wedding reception table, realistic, photographed, ultra detailed, HQ, high quality, 8K, DOF, depth of field, symmetrical composition, zoomed out, HDR resolution, and award-winning photography. So the AI is trying to take all of that input and figure out what I'm looking for. There's a lot of configurations you can use. I like sampling steps. I typically have a happy medium between like 45 and 65 for these so far from what I found. The default is usually around 20. I find Euler A for sampling method to be the most interesting. I truly haven't fiddled around with every single one. Batch count, batch size is going to depend on what your computer can render. The CFG scale, like we talked about last time, is how much do we want the AI to follow this prompt. If you crank it all the way up, it is going to try really, really hard to follow this to the T. If you crank it down, it is going to get a little bit, we'll say creative. So you can make some weird stuff depending on what your prompt is. Now, the typical ratio here is around 7, if I recall correctly. So you can see that I've been bumping it down lower just to let it have a little bit more freedom to see what it comes up with. And I think it's been doing a great job here, but I think anywhere from 3.5 to maybe 10 could generate some really good images. My computer can only stick with the 512 by 512. I know some people have great graphics cards that are rendering higher, but I have found 512 by 512 to be great. I put this information in, I hit generate, and we let it make us some pictures. I have literally generated hundreds and hundreds of pictures from variations of this prompt, and I want to go through some of my favorites with you. So just kind of looking at the centerpieces, right off the bat, we can take a look at this grid. And for those of you who missed the other episode, I definitely want to recommend that you go check that out. But every time you set the prompt, you hit generate, it provides you with this grid that's kind of like the overview. So in this instance, we did 12 images in that rendering. So here's an at a glance of all of the 12 from that rendering we did. All of these images, whether they're the regular centerpieces, the elaborate centerpieces, everything, they're going to be uploaded to the blog and pinned on my Pinterest page. So that way, if you saw something, you're like, oh my gosh, this is so cool. I need to bring it to my florist. I want this at my wedding. I want this on my Thanksgiving table. You can do that. You can share them. Or if you like to design yourself, or maybe you recreate with silks, you can have that leisure too. And like I said, they'll all be uploaded and available for you to pin and save your favorites for future. I thought this one was kind of cool. Is it the most perfect, like, visually? No, but I liked the composition. I thought it was really pretty, and I liked the uniqueness of the urn. Perfectly acceptable centerpiece, and a lot of these are. The candles, sure. Like, are those supposed to be there? No. Should we have live flowers? Really, any flowers and live flame? No. That's a big safety problem. But I think it does a really great job putting together the pieces. Like, is this photorealistic? Yeah, the arrangement looks pretty great, but then you have like weird things like this in the background. The AI is going to get better over time like any other technology, but I'm loving this tool for idea generation and image generation just because this is a really, we'll say, unique arrangement, right? Like, I don't think I've seen a fall arrangement like this. Is it perfect for a dining table? No, because you can't see anybody across from them. But could you imagine if you had a lovely, maybe 60-inch round table that you wanted to put your seating cards for, who's sitting at what table here, or if you had a grand foyer that you needed a little decoration for it, this would be one of those arrangements that stands out because it's different, but it's also very impactful. See, some of these arrangements, very classic, very pretty. I think these are all very doable. This one I thought, it was an interesting thing that the AI decided to use we'll say a different bowl, not one that you could just get off the shelf. And I thought that was just, an interesting theme. So this one, kind of an interesting balance here. I'm not really sure what this vase is, but I don't really mind it because it's kind of different. And that's the beauty of some of this, is it does some stuff really great, and some stuff you look at and you're like, what? Some of the shots that we get are these really interesting close-up detail shots, which I think for inspiration boards, especially if you're like, I don't really know the vibe I'm going for or anything, things like images like this, I find to be super helpful, because then you could kind of see a little bit of all of the things. You can see the statement pieces here are going to be roses. You could see what the kind of the foliage is going to be, some of the accents, how we're working in some fall elements. It's really interesting that it generates these. Now this is a beautiful centerpiece. The bouquet is stunning. And I say bouquet because this could literally be used as a bridal bouquet or as a centerpiece. Now obviously in this instance, the AI did not render a vase, and that's fine. We can use our imaginations and fill in the vase with what we know to be true in real life, but I just thought this is really stunning. You could see here, probably not the particulars of every picture or anything, but you could see this was one of the larger runs that I did, and the more images that you generate in Stable Diffusion, the longer usually the rendering time is on them. So something like this, is it a typical aesthetically beautiful arrangement? No, but it's different, and I kind of appreciate that. I don't know what the table arrangement here is, why we have this big one, why we have this little one, but, if you had a really long table, a nice king table, estate table, something like this could actually work. And is it 100% burgundy? It's a little on the red side for me, but it's still really pretty. I specifically use the word burgundy over red, and by and large, the centerpieces have burgundy, like a true burgundy in them. I think that's very impressive that it was able to identify that, because that's a little bit more of an abstract color. It's not necessarily as saturated in the centerpiece market as a red centerpiece might be. There are so many images in here. I don't want to stop and talk about every one. Some of them are crazy elaborate. Some of them like this are a little bit lower. And, are they all for everyone? No. But they're really interesting. And I love that it makes its best guess at what tablecloth you were going to see with it. So we're seeing a lot of pinks like this. Another kind of mauve-y color. Beautiful arrangement. We're seeing quite a bit of red tablecloths with this, and that's fine. That makes, it's just interesting. I thought these arrangements were great. I think it's interesting that the Stable Diffusion AI had seen enough of these images to go, okay, on round tables, there's typically one centerpiece. On rectangular tables, there's typically two, or maybe like a runner of florals or something like that, or maybe like a big arch. And I think the AI did its best effort to make a rectangular-ish table, except for maybe like this little part here. And so if it's thinking it's making a big rectangular or king table, estate table, what do you want to call it, it put two arrangements in that match. And I thought that's really impressive. So you could tell, for all intents and purposes, there's a lot of great content that could be generated out of this. Even this beautiful table runner. I mean, a lot of potential. And I think whether you're an event designer, a florist, a bride, I mean, there's so many different capabilities for what you could use this tool for. And if you have the capability to mess around with it, either installing it on your own computer, which I will say takes a little bit more technical skill, or using it in Dream Studio, which is, you just kind of pay per as you use it. That might be the most accessible thing to people. But it is certainly very, very fun to just see what it comes up with. I know there's a few of these in here that I've bookmarked and saved for future reference, because I'm like, these are beautiful. Absolutely stunning. I had to end on this one. I thought it was interesting that it pulled this almost like it kind of reminded me of like maybe like an old clipping from maybe a 90s magazine, like maybe Women's World or one of the magazines, you know, maybe Martha Stewart for all I know. It kind of had that vibe in here, and I was like, I wonder what it was referencing when it generated this picture. But either way, I mean, it's a beautiful arrangement. You know, takes a certain person to like that style, but it's very, very pretty. So those are what I would consider to be our kind of run-of-the-mill pretty burgundy centerpieces. Besides the many, many that are not worth sharing, I do want to make sure we weigh in and to say not everything is beautiful and glamorous. There are plenty of fails. The AI is still learning. And, you know, so things like this where like the bottom half of the image, I don't know what's happening, but something went wrong. We get quite a few of images like these that do look like they're out of a magazine, where it's kind of got that split, almost collage look on them. This one, oh, this one. We're like a little dolly here with it kind of morphing and melting, and I don't know what's going on, but it's kind of funny because, you know, the AI is still learning. It's trying to do a good job, but it gives you a good laugh. You know, we talked about the multiple centerpieces on the long tables. It made multiple centerpieces on this one. It just kind of shoved them all together and kind of unevenly mashed them up. We have some like this. We'll talk about them later, but where they get a little crop. Then we go to this, and you're just like, I'm not mad about it because I don't really know what's going on. It's a really cool installation piece, but it's not a centerpiece. You know, we get weird stuff, and that's part of the joys of experimenting with this, is you really don't know what you're getting. And I know there are some artists that are afraid that this is, you know, devaluing their work or taking away from their expertise. But honestly, if you are getting beat out by pictures like this, you were going to get beat out anyways, in my opinion. You know, just a lot of interesting concoctions the AI can come up with. I want to show you some that are kind of a fail, but kind of not. So here's a problem that I run into a lot. I'm still kind of learning the prompts, but if we go back to the Stable Diffusion prompt that we were using in Automatic 1111, I specifically requested a few things: symmetrical composition and zoomed out. And I don't know if we spoke about it earlier, but in the negatives, so there's what you want and then what you don't want in the negatives. It's not 100% guaranteed. Obviously, we saw plenty of text in some of these pictures, and it's pretty much just trying to recreate what it thinks watermarks and stuff are. So I had put text, people, and blurry. And so I would say for the most part, there was no people in, really, I think one of them might have had people in it, but blurry, I didn't have a problem with that. It's, you know, a little bit of text, but nothing we can't doctor out later. Symmetrical composition, I think we could say for sure that it didn't 100% keep to that, but I think it was kind of balancing that symmetrical composition request against award-winning photography, where there's a lot of things that are typically slightly off-centered or a little bit more distinctly placed in the frames. So those kind of probably cancel each other out for all intents and purposes, but I had added in the words zoomed out because I was reading about it in the Discord for Stable Diffusion, and somebody said, listen, it's cropping out pictures for, you know, people are generating pictures with, you know, humans, so that maybe the heads are cut off or the feet are cut off. And part of that goes back to, it's a 512 by 512. So if you have an elongated element like this in our piece, would be a tall centerpiece, but it could be a human, it could be a skyscraper or something like that. Trying to figure out the composition is something the AI is still working through. Let me just show you my favorites. There's a lot of them because I was just blown away by how elaborate these could get. But I had to share them with you. Like, look at this. Does this not look like a real photo to you? These are beautiful. Beautiful. I mean, sure, is every glass in the right place? No. But, I mean, this is stunning. This is a beautiful, beautiful burgundy centerpiece. Current technology, could I say I want gold Chiavari chairs with white pads on white linen in a room like this? maybe, but I seriously doubt I could get it on demand. But even knowing that it's making these pictures and making that composition and that editorial choice is really great. So while the technology today might not be there that you could plug that information in and get this image, I bet in the not too distant future we will have some of those options available to us. I know, I go through all of them. I'm like, this one's so pretty, but I mean, could you blame me? Like, look at this. Look at this. Beautiful, beautiful centerpieces. So these are the ones that I thought, wow, this is an incredible composition one way or another. And it was just really impressed. Just really, really impressed. I mean, look at these. We got a few that are cut off. It sucks, but these, do I love them for like a wedding? No, not especially, but for a Christmas party, I think these could be super pretty. And then this one, oh, I had to include this. I don't know what it's thinking is going on here. I don't really care. I'm assuming there's just like an invisible arch, and maybe the drapes are all parting and there's support from the back. I don't really care. Doesn't matter. I love this. This is super cool. All right, now I wanted to do one more round with you guys and show you some of the table receptions. So I had changed up my prompt from reception table to just reception. So I just took out the word table when I was making my prompt. These are some of the images that I got. So like I said, I've generated hundreds and hundreds of these. These are just some of the top ones, or ones that are probably the most useful. This is technically a reception room. It is a reception. Are there centerpieces? No, apparently not. But it did generate a reception. Some of the centerpieces are almost better than the ones that I told it to make when I wanted to make centerpieces, but it's an art form in and of itself. Were most of these receptions, like where you're seeing the room? No. But there's some really cool, interesting pictures in here. We'll say that, and I just had to share them with you. My name is Alessandra. I'm going to be doing a lot more of these Stable Diffusion videos, I hope, in the weeks to come. If you have any requests, put them down below. I am an event designer by day and apparently a YouTuber when I can get it together in the evenings. So I love a good challenge. So if you're like, hey, Alessandra, I have an interesting idea for a winter wedding, drop it in the comments down below and let me see what I can generate through Stable Diffusion. All right, friends, that's it for me. As always, thanks so much for watching. Make sure you subscribe so you don't miss any more content. Until next time,